1 second, I am starting. We are recording.
Awesome. Great. Well, first of all, thanks for everybody, sort of sharing your day with me, sharing some time. Certainly hope everybody is safe and dry. Certainly some unusual fall weather given the warmth and the humidity, but I think we'll all take it, right? And first of all, thanks to Angela and NARI for allowing me this platform and you all to give me your time. So, quick kind of introduction. So I'm George Hodges-Fulton, but I was at BOA for almost 14 years. When I went to BOA in 2003, I was hired as a production manager. I then moved, as they said at BOA, to the dark side, to the sales team. I became a sales manager and ultimately was a general manager running a $15 million division within the umbrella of BOA, which at the time was about 35 million when I left. So during that time, I became a member of our executive team. I actually ended up owning part of the company. But really, it was during this time that I was exposed to a lot of the tools and concepts that I'm going to share with you today. When I successfully exited BOA, I actually moved over to Kane Landscapes, a design build firm in Sterling, as the COO, where we self-implemented EOS as purely as we could as self-implementers, and really became sort of familiar and really understood the EOS system during those 2 years at Kane. And from there, I really just decided that my passion, what I love to do, is help businesses. I've always been, most successful in my roles really when I was sort of a manager and a coach and a trainer. And so I really just decided this is what I want to do. And this became my passion, was to go off and get professionally certified to help businesses implement the EOS system. And so that's what I'm kind of here today to do, is just to share some time with you. So, as a professional EOS implementer, what does EOS do? So the goal of EOS is to help business owners, entrepreneurs, leadership teams address one of the 5 frustrations that we feel most business owners, sort of experience one of these, right? So the first one is just kind of lack of control. I mean, frankly, the business is kind of controlling you as opposed to you controlling the business. The second one is that you're struggling with people. You're just frustrated with their actions. And while today we're going to talk about what I'll call, quote, employees, more appropriate, your colleagues, when we're talking about struggling with people, it's really actually about, it could be our partners, our vendors, our clients. So people isn't just the people that work with us and for us. It's really everybody that we interact with, right? Profit, just simply, there's just not enough of it. And then the other one is that we might have hit a ceiling, or our growth is stagnated, and so we've just stopped. It doesn't matter what we do; we just seem to break through and get to the next level. And then sort of nothing's working, right? This is just best summed up by the flavor of the month club, right? It doesn't matter the various strategies, sort of quick fixes, anything that you've sort of initiated, it's not really taking sort of hold. And ultimately what happens is that your colleagues, your leadership team sort of become numb to all of the new flavor of the month club stuff that we try to institute in our business to try to help us break through and get stuck. So it's kind of what EOS is designed to do, is to address one or more of these common frustrations that a lot of business owners are experiencing. And so how do we do that? We basically help professionally implement within your business a simple set of tools and concepts, and really work with you and your leadership team to get better at 3 very, very important things that we call vision, traction, and healthy. And as you can see on the screen, the vision side of it is just making sure that we're 100% on the same page of where are we going with your business and how we're going to get there, right? The traction side of that is bringing it down to the ground so that anywhere you go throughout your business, you see your frontline colleagues actually sort of executing on that business, on that vision, and really sort of working towards that goal every day in your business. And then the healthy side of it is just working together with you and your leadership team to ensure that we're communicating in an open, honest, healthy, vulnerable environment. Because what we found is that a lot of leadership teams might be working together in a smart manner. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're working together in a healthy manner. And the problem is that, you know, as the leadership team goes, so goes the rest of the organization, right? That we can't sort of tell people to do what we're telling them to do. We've got to demonstrate the right behavior and attitude. And so when we're working with our teams, those are the three things that we're really working on. I just wanted to kind of, you know, give you a little bit of background, sort of help you understand where we're going. You know, today we want to focus on the people within your business. But I think, you know, sort of understanding this background and helping you see the sort of bigger picture, hopefully will put a little bit of it in context to you. And so the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS, has been popularized by Gino Wickman in his book Traction. But the system is designed to strengthen 6 key components of your business. When we talk about strengthening the 6 key components, we always talk about your business. So your business is in the center of everything. Sort of think of it like a little bit like a wagon wheel, right? And so this is, you know, just again, a little background and context that'll hopefully set it up for us. But so the first key component really of any business is just vision, right? So this is just getting you, the leadership team, and everyone 100% on the same page of where we're going and how we plan on getting there, right? The second key component is the people component. And just quite simply, you can't achieve great things without great people. But the truth is, every organization defines great people differently. And so we're going to sort of, today, I'm going to teach you how to sort of cut through, you know, all the wonderful terms that are out there, the superstars, the A players, the top quartile, and really get to the heart of what you define as a great team member for your unique organization. And then there's the data component. This is just running your business on the facts and figures that we need as a leadership team and entrepreneurs to really run a good business. This gets us away from the egos and the sort of subjective decision making, the feelings that so often drive decision making in entrepreneurial organizations. And so what happens is that once we get really clear on our vision and we have the right people within our organization and we have the data we need to run a really good business, is that all of the imperfections, all the impurities, all the obstacles and barriers, frankly, all of the sort of black eyes, all the stuff that's sort of holding us back just becomes sort of really self-evident. We sort of get crystal clear on what is the fourth component, but what are our issues within our business, right? And so when we're talking about strengthening the fourth key component of your business, the issues component, what we're talking about really is identifying the issues, prioritizing them, and having you and helping you and teaching you how to get really good at setting up these issues and knocking them down and make them go away forever. We just can't run a really great organization if we're not really good at solving issues. The key here is solving the right issues and making them go away forever, right? So the fifth key component is about strengthening the process component of your business. This is just where all the most important stuff of your business gets done. You know, as we like to say, if you have 40 employees, there's not 40 best ways to do work, right? There's only one best way. And so we have to document that process and ensure that everyone is following that key core process. At the end of the day, this is really where the consistency, the scalability comes within your business. I would encourage you and have you think of it like the franchise model, right? This is sort of the McDonald's model of your business, right? We've got to document the key core processes and ensure that it's being followed by all. And this is really where, just at the end of the day, a lot more of the fun comes from within your business. Your business becomes easier to manage. And ultimately, this is where profit comes from. When our core processes are being followed by all, that is where profitability comes from. And then last is traction. So traction is just bringing the vision down to the ground and ensuring that everyone is following that vision, if you will. And so there's no sort of coincidence that the vision is at the top of the model and traction is at the bottom of the model, because vision without traction, frankly, is just hallucination, right? And so those are the 6 key components of your business, really of any business. And when you're working on professional EOS implementation, you're just working on strengthening those 6 key components, of your business. And so EOS is just a way to harmonize your business, to actually sort of pull all the moving parts together so that you can run a better business and frankly live a better life. That's what EOS is designed to do. And so this is sort of the journey to strengthen those 6 key components, right? And so today we're going to focus on the people component. And so, why are we going to focus on the people component? It's because it's really, frankly, the most difficult component within the EOS model. And so when we focus on the people component, I want to sort of provide a little background, a little context of, what is this, what piece of the model or the system are we going to focus on, but also provide a little data of, okay, why is the people component kind of, I don't want to imply that it's the most important one, because they're all equally important and they're all intertwined, but why is it? And so George Carlin just has this great quote, right? And you guys can read it. It's obviously coming from George. It's pretty funny, but you almost have to scratch your head and say, God, is that really true? And then I would challenge you guys and think about some of your colleagues. I suspect that some of your colleagues, you can probably fit in this category that George is sort of talking about here. The reality is that we look at the data, right? So even in the US, we talk about data. Let's look at the data and let's look at the Gallup poll and figure out, okay, how many of our colleagues as a percentage are engaged, or that there's sort of neutral engagement or this sort of disengagement, right? And whatever the exact percentages are, we could all sort of Google it and come up with some different numbers. The reality is that, they're pretty accurate somewhere in here, give or take minus a couple points. And so I ask you all as we go through this, think about your colleagues and say, okay, how many of my colleagues are sort of pulling us up the hill, right? The little engine that could. And how many of our colleagues are we actually dragging along? So if you want a different analogy, how many of your colleagues are rowing the boat in harmony, all in the same direction? And how many of your colleagues are drilling holes in your boat when you turn around? So, it's just a different way to look at the exact same data, right? So, think about it and ask yourself, okay, are my colleagues rowing with me, or are they drilling holes, right? So when we go to the people component, we talk about 2 things. We talk about right people, right seats. And this idea, this concept was actually just popularized by Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great. And so what I'm going to try to do today is really try to define them sort of clearly, and then make them a little bit more tangible. So hopefully you can walk away at the end of the day with some actual tools you can implement. So the reality is right people, right seats. You just have to have both within your organization. And so let's just take them one at a time. Let's start with the right people, right? So right people are people who just share your core values. And so when we talk about core values, we need to kind of define that for a moment and really make sure that the right people are demonstrating your core values, within your organization, and that they're consistently exhibiting these core values and that they fit your culture like a glove. So let's talk about core values for a second. If it's so important to the right people, let's just talk about core values. And so, we at EOS believe that your core values are just 3 to 7 sort of essential guiding characteristics that define your organization's culture, right? This is sort of what defines the behavior of the people and how you expect them to act within your organization, right? So the core values are just sort of 3 to 7 guiding principles. And one thing we say in the US is, right, less is more, right? So we always sort of have this rule of thumb, 3 to 7 is kind of the general number when we're talking about most things within the US, right? So when we talk about this, we say, okay, they help you define who you are and what you stand for. And once you have this again, it defines the quote right people for your unique organization. The key here is that it's for your unique organization. Every organization has different core values. And so it's important for you to find the right people for your unique organization. And once we have those, we need to ensure that we're going about and demonstrating the behavior and actually running our business this way. So it's really designed that we need to go out into the marketplace and recruit, hire, and reward and retain and ultimately fire those people and recognize those people based off of our core values. So when you talk about recruiting with core values, part of that might be the job description you write. Part of it might be when you put an application or a job opening out on the street, you actually talk about your core values. You make sure that it resonates with that person. And then when you're interviewing them, you let them know what your core values are, and you make a promise to them that you're going to surround them with similar like people, and that if that's not the sort of type of culture they want to be part of, then please don't take your job. So you're actually sort of using it to recruit the right people and making that commitment to them right off of the bat, that you're going to surround them with similar people when it comes to the core value side of it. And so, why is this so important? And again, I sort of said right people, right seats was popularized by Jim Collins. But the fact of the matter is we all sort of argue that people are our most important asset. And Jim takes it one step further and says that the right people are your most important asset, right? So we've got to figure out who are the right people. And so the question is how do we know if we have the right people? And so what I'm going to walk you through is the tool that we use in EOS for this is what we call the people analyzer. And so if you notice at the top of the slide, there's humbly confident, grow or die, help first, do the right thing, and do what you say. These are actually my core values, our core values at EOS. And so when we use the people analyzer, we just take our core values, right? So again, these are the guiding principles for our organization, the guiding characteristics or traits. And then we put somebody's name there and we look at Sally Jones and we say, okay, Sally demonstrates our core values most of the time, right? We're not looking for perfection. Perfection is the enemy of great. You look at somebody like John and you say, okay, most of the time he is not demonstrating our core values. It's pretty clear that he's not a good fit for our unique organization. And then you look at somebody like George Wilson and you say, okay, sometimes he demonstrates our core values and sometimes he does not. This is a person who's like 50-50, if you will. So the key here is that you need to establish a bar so that you can clearly communicate to your colleagues what it is and what is a successful person looks like within our unique organization. And so when we talk about the bar, if we have 5 core values, we typically coach our teams to say, okay, a majority of that, let's call it 3, as you can see in this example, have to demonstrate our core values most of the time. And then we say, okay, the other 2 core values, the remaining number, they need to demonstrate them, about 50-50. The key here is that I'm not saying that you have to always demonstrate being humbly confident and it's okay for you to sometimes demonstrate do the right thing. The key here is that there's sort of 3/2 and those numbers move around, the plus and minuses move around. But if somebody has less than 3 pluses and more than 3 plus minuses or negatives, then they don't really meet the bar, right? And so the goal here is to be able to assess your people black and white, whether they consistently exhibit your core values. You're actually sort of taking the subjective opinion out of this and making it very objective. And so better yet, it actually facilitates a clear conversation with your people about where they're falling short with regards to your core values and also where they're succeeding so that they understand that they fit your culture or that they don't fit your culture, right? And so the core values really just help us define what is a great person for our unique organization. And so it is really important here to remember that just because they fit one organization well, it doesn't mean that they're going to fit your organization well. So again, core values are very unique and the people analyzer is very specialized to your specific organization, right? They're your core values, they're nobody else's. And so you've got to run them through the people analyzer. And again, just it provides a very clear mechanism in which for you to effectively communicate whether they're meeting or not meeting your core values, right? So this just sort of helps drive your culture within your business. So let's go to number 2, and we're going to talk about right seats. So right seats are just people who are good at their job, right? They just have the God-given talent, if you will, the skills, the experience, the sort of ability and desire to do their job well, right? And so once we know what the right people are for our organization, we need to make sure that they're fitting in the right seats within our organization, right? Because, you know, as we said earlier, having the right people is your competitive advantage, right? Having people who fit your culture like a glove is that advantage we're looking for, but we've got to ensure that they're doing the right things within our business, right? Just because they fit the right culture, it doesn't mean that they're in the right seat within our business, right? So how do we know that they're doing the right things? We need to put them into the next tool I'm going to share with you, is what we call the accountability chart. And the accountability chart, many of you might look at this and say, oh, it's just an org chart. And I'm hoping to show you and demonstrate to you that it's not really about an org chart. It's not about a hierarchy. In fact, you'll notice there's not titles here. We don't really care about titles. We care about accountability, right? So the way we use this chart is we, as a leadership team, just take a big step back from our organization. We take a deep breath. I coach my teams to say, look, I want you to act like the board of directors. I don't want you to worry about what seat you may or may not sit in. I want you to be acting in the greater good of the organization. I want you to take a big step back, and I say, okay, 6 to 12 months from now, what is the right structure for this organization? If we're going to build this organization from the beginning and we can wave a magic wand, what is the right structure for this organization? And so we actually work together to build this accountability chart, building the structure first. And so let me sort of walk you through that idea. The accountability chart is based on this sort of basic assumption that every major organization has the 3 major functions that are at the bottom of this accountability chart, right? And so when we talk about sales and marketing, right, this is just going out into the marketplace, creating that demand and converting on that demand, right? When we talk about the operations, seat of the operations or the production function, we talk about producing or delivering that product or service that our marketing and sales team has converted on. And then we talk about the finance seat. We talk about managing assets as they flow in and out of the organization, managing our cash flow, things like that. And so at the end of the day, we can call these seats whatever we want. We can complicate them or not complicate them. I would encourage you to look at these 3 major functions at the bottom of this accountability chart and just say to yourself, look, at the end of the day, our organization, our business is designed to do 3 things: get work, do work, and get paid. That's as simple as it is. You can complicate it all you want, but at the end of the day, we've got to do 3 major things, and we have to make sure that someone is accountable for those 3 major things within our organization. And so if you guys give me blind faith, or if you sort of, make the assumption that those 3 major functions are within our business, then there is a 4th major function that we ask you in EOS to consider, and that is the integrator. And this is the person that harmoniously sort of integrates the 3 major functions of our business. In this particular case, I will use a title so that, hopefully you guys can correlate what I'm showing you. At the end of the day, the integrator, many of you might call the general manager within your business or the COO. We call it an integrator because, again, it's the person who is integrating the major functions of our business. And again, we don't really use titles within EOS. I'm not suggesting to you that your business card for the outside world doesn't have a title, but when we're talking about internal accountability, we don't actually use titles. Titles imply a hierarchy and importance. I'm worried about accountability. Who's accountable for what within your business. And so the integrator is the person who really just sort of beats the drum in your organization. They set the pace, right? You sort of heard, they're the person who keeps the trains running on time within your organization. They're the person who, is the sort of drum major, if you will, right? They're controlling the cadence of your organization, and they are driving accountability and harmoniously integrating those 3 major functions below them. So Once we agree on those four major functions, we need to go about and sort of crystallize what are the accountabilities or the roles within those major functions in your business. Those are actually those sort of dots within those white boxes, right? So typically we look at it and say there's 5 major roles within the business. And so, you know, when we're starting to fill that out, the first thing we do is look at, okay, well, what major core process does that person own, right? So they might own the sales core process, they might own the marketing core process. And then we might look at, you know, okay, 1 to 3 numbers or KPIs, you might call them, underneath them that actually we know if that person has had a good week, right? So we actually can sort of measure and monitor what their roles are by actually sort of giving data or measurables within the accountability chart so that we know whether they've had a good week or have not had a good week. And again, driving towards an objective manner, not a subjective opinion. And so once we have that, we're absolutely clear on what the accountability of that seat is. Please note at this point, I'm using the word structure and seat very carefully. I haven't talked about one person in your business yet. We're trying to get the right seats built for your organization first, right? This is about structure first and the people second. And so once you guys are on board with that sort of fundamental belief and sort of basic structure of your business, we go about customizing the accountability chart in several ways. And so the first one is that we just step back and say, okay, sales and marketing may actually split into 2 different seats. And so we actually end up with a sales and marketing seat as opposed to the way it's represented in this box. Your operations team might separate into 2, 3 functions, if you will, just depending on the size of your business, the complexity, maybe even the product line might sort of break into 2 or 3 different functions underneath the operations seat. On the finance side, that might actually break into office management, IT, HR, again, depending on how big your organization is, how complicated it is. And so we just want to sort of call out the different major functions. The rule, again, is 3 to 7. You know, you typically, you've got to have the 3 basic ones that we've laid out here. You don't want more than 7. The integrator, frankly, can't interact with more than 7 people on a regular basis and actually do a functional job. Of the ability to do that. And so once we have this built and once you guys are on board, we take this idea, this concept, this discipline, this tool, if you will, and we push it down throughout the whole organization. So ultimately the operations person needs to build out the accountability chart for everybody that's below them. Again, using the 5 major roles function, driving accountability for that seat within the organization. And so, you know, once we do that, we can actually build out the accountability chart and actually sort of start putting people into those seats, right? So when we go back to where we started, right people, right seats, we talked about the right people are just people who fit our organization like a glove. They are culturally, you know, sort of members of ours. And then now we've built out the accountability chart. We have the right seat. There is a 5th major seat within the accountability chart that some of our EOS clients have and some of them don't. You'll notice the dashed line, that's intentional. Some organizations have a visionary. And so a visionary is a big idea person. Frankly, they're really good at culture. They're actually really good most of the time at big relationships, big sales, big relationships with vendors or partners, subcontractors, things like that. They're really bad at the day-to-day operations of the business. They cannot get down into the weeds and stick with it for any period of time. The visionary and the integrator just couldn't literally be 2 different people, if you will. The visionary, again, great at culture, great at seeing across the industry, seeing new issues, new patterns, new trends, new opportunities. They're, like I said, they're really good at relationships. They're really good at the culture of the business. They're horrible at the day-to-day operations. What happens is if you have a visionary stuck in the integrator role is that you get these spikes of energy within your business and then it fizzles out. They just do not have the energy and the discipline to drive the day-to-day operations of your business. And so we sometimes in a joking manner say, okay, well, a visionary will come into a business, they'll inject the business with a bunch of energy, a new idea, a new concept. But the fact of the matter is they move on, and then there's this wake of chaos behind them because there's nobody there to pull it all together and drive that accountability and that discipline. And so if we have a visionary in your business, no problem. We just need to call it out, and we need to put them where they belong in their business. And we need to also call out their 5 roles and responsibilities, what they're actually accountable for. So again, you don't need a visionary. EOS would teach you that you absolutely have to have the bottom 4 major functions, starting with the integrator and below that. But if you do have a visionary within your business, it's actually really important to call it out and put that person up there. Because if not, they're really just frankly going to drive some chaos within your business. They just don't have the discipline to follow through with things. So once we have this accountability chart, where I was going with this is we need to start putting people in the seats once we've defined that. And so how do we do that is with a tool that we call GWC. So as you can see here, the larger white part of the slide is the function. So that's the major function. And then we want to put somebody's name in there. And then we actually sort of say, okay, do they GWC this role? So let me walk you through sort of what GWC means. As you guys can read, it's just get it and want it and have the capacity to do it. But let's take a little bit deeper dive, kind of one at a time here, right? So when we talk about get it, we're actually saying, okay, does this person have the natural ability, the sort of, aptitude to do this job and understand the ins and outs and the roles of this function, right? So do they get it? Do they have the mental sort of ability and agility to do this job? Do they get this role within our organization? Yes or no? And then we say, okay, do they want it? Do they have a sincere desire to jump out of bed and run to this job, to excel in this role, right? You cannot teach, you can't pay, you can't cajole, you can't coach want it. They have to want it, right? And there's nothing you can do about it as an owner, a manager. If somebody doesn't want the role, there's nothing you can do about it, right? So this person has to genuinely spring out of bed and run to this job in the morning. And then we just talk about capacity, right? The capacity
George,
is yeah, Michael, go ahead.
Could you go back 2 slides? There was a graphic that I was trying to read. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I can pop it over to you if you like, but
that's okay. That's great.
Yep. No problem. Anybody else jump in, ask questions. So when we talk about the capacity to do it, right? So this is about the emotional, intellectual, physical sort of time capacity to do this job. This is about the acquired ability to do the job well, right? So this might be skills and experience and training. For many of us, certainly on this call, when we're talking to carpenters, they have to have the physical capacity to do the job, right? And the time capacity really comes into play when we talk about, do they have the ability to do the job in a reasonable amount of time, so that we're, based off of budget versus actuals, things like that. It also comes into play if one person is sitting in more than one seat in your organization, right? We don't have just 200% capacity. If we have somebody sitting in more than one seat, we need to quantify how much time are they spending in each seat, right? We can't just ask somebody to double themselves. It just doesn't work that way. And so that is, sort of GWC and get it and want it and have the capacity to do it. And so what happens is once we have that, we actually take another step back and we use this as the people analyzer. You can see this is the exact same sort of tool, if you will, but now we've added the get it and the want it and have the capacity to do it. So if you look down at the bar, you just have to have yeses to all 3 of these. You just have to have somebody who they get it, they want it, and they have the capacity to do it. So every once in a while, we can be a little bit of a soft yes on the capacity, in the sense that we might need to get somebody a little bit of training, right? They might have the intellectual ability to do the job, but they just haven't been given the training to do the job yet. And so they have the capacity, and we just need to get them a little bit of training. So every once in a while, you can have a soft yes, maybe or a weak yes, on the capacity side, but you absolutely have to have very large, bold yeses on the get it and the want it side of the GWC. So now that we sort of know what the person is, the right person for our organization, and we know the seat that they're going to sit in, and we know how to evaluate them in that seat, it sort of presents itself in several different sort of issues, if you will. And so once you use both of these tools in conjunction with each other, right, they can't be used separately. They've got to be used together. We've got to have the right people in the right seats. What happens is that you end up with 4 people types. The first one is easy, and frankly, you know, in the ideal world, what all of us want, right? These are the right people in the right seats. They demonstrate our core values, and they absolutely GWC our job, right? This is what we want everybody in our organization to be, right? Right person, right seat. Number 2 is the right person in the wrong seat. So this is just someone that you absolutely love. They fit your culture like a glove, but they're just in the wrong seat. So the good news is, for many of you, you have a large enough organization that you might be able to move them into the right seat, right? And so many times within your organization, we're able to move this person into the right seat. But if you can't, as tough as it is, I'm going to urge you, beg you, plead with you, you've got to make a change. I mean, it's really difficult. But, you know, in for-profit organizations, we can't keep people around just because they fit our culture. You know, if they're not contributing, if they're not in the right seat, and we don't have the right seat to offer them, we need to do what's in their best interest and help them move along, maybe even help them find a new job, you know, with a great company that they can be in that right seat with. The next one is the wrong person in the right seat. And these are people who are just great at their jobs. They're hitting their numbers. They're highly productive, but they don't fit your culture. They're just sort of chipping away at your culture in ways that you can't even understand, you can't even fathom. I'm being polite, frankly, by calling it death by 1,000 cuts. These are the people who are the water cooler disasters. I mean, they just culturally are undermining everything you're doing in your organization. And I'm going to really beg and urge and plead with you. You just have to make a tough decision and let these people go. No, you know, no amount of cajoling or conversations are going to change these people. They just culturally do not fit your organization, and you just have to make a tough decision. They are going to be doing a whole lot more damage in the long term than any good that they're going to do. They're going to kill you in the long run. So, you know, wrong people, right seats. Again, they might be hitting their numbers, but they are not helping your culture. And, you know, as they say about one bad apple, right, it just ruins the whole bunch, and we just can't have that. And the last one is you know, a little bit obvious also, right? This is just the wrong person in the wrong seat, and all of us has done this. I would be surprised if anybody on the line could you know, open and honestly not raise their hand. It's just a bad hire. We've all made mistakes. We've all done it. We've all hired somebody that in 2 or 3 weeks within our organization, we were just like, holy cow, this was wrong. And, you know, it's just the wrong person in the wrong seat. And there's just nothing that we can do with that person. You know, so, you know, what I say in EOS is, right, is a bad hire is just a vacant seat waiting to be discovered. So, you know, just because you have a warm body, it doesn't mean that actual seat within the accountability chart is actually functionally working for your organization. So, you know, wrong person, wrong seat. I mean, again, these ones are just become pretty self-evident pretty quickly, and you just got to move them out of the organization. So when we talk about right people, right seats, you know, a little bit of a recap here is you need to ask yourself, I mean, this annual planning time for most of us, you need to ask yourself, do I have the right structure? If I look 6 months from now, if I look in late spring, what is the right structure for my organization, right? This is my sort of call to action to you all is, do I have the right structure with what you have right now? I want you to walk out the door and, you know, sort of figuratively think about your organization brand new and say, okay, what is the right structure 6 to 12 months from now? What does this organization need to look like so that we're set up for success, right? And then, do I have the right people? So once you've got the right structure and you know what your core values are, run them through the people analyzer. I mean, do my people fit my structure and do they fit my culture like a glove? I would be really surprised if every single one of you actually can answer both of those questions with a sort of emphatic yes, right? And if you're a little bit, on the fence about right people, here's one little sort of tip or nugget. All you do is ask yourself, would I enthusiastically rehire this person? And that should actually kind of just glaringly give you the answer. Would I enthusiastically rehire this person? That is going to help you answer that right people question as you're going through this exercise. So my question to the group is what is the one people move that I have to make this quarter? Between now and the new year even, what is the one people move that I have to make? And again, I'm not on a witch hunt here, guys. I'm not encouraging you to fire people. I don't want you to. I mean, it's sad. I mean, people have to go home and have difficult conversations with their spouses, their family. This is not what I want. But I can tell you, for the greater good of your organization, for the greater good of your community, of your culture, many times addition by subtraction is the correct answer. And so, again, I just sort of have you take a look at these questions and really sort of ask yourself, do I have the right structure? Do I have the right people? And do I need to make a move, this quarter? So, quick recap, we talked, I introduced you to the 6 key components. We really talked about the people, right? So it's about the right people in the right seats. And again, the right people, the tool we use is the people analyzer. And when we talk about right seats, we talk about the accountability chart. Do we have the right structure? And so right people, right seats, you just have to have both. And so, I will encourage you all that this is a journey, right? We are trying to get to 100% strong in the people component within our business, but recognize sometimes that 100% strong is utopia. And that for many organizations I work with, 80% or better in any and all of the 6 key components is where we're trying to get to, right? That, we're working towards the progress, we're not trying to get to perfection, right? So perfection is the enemy of great, as I had mentioned earlier. So with that, I just want to go ahead and sort of, open it up to any questions. I'd love to sort of field some questions. I'd love to hear from anybody on the call that's using EOS or using parts of EOS. And also to, anybody in the group, my contact information is here. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text. I'm happy to shoot you out a copy of the book Traction. I'm happy to also give you, 90 minutes of my time with your leadership team. We kind of call that the 90-minute movie version of the book Traction. I can walk you through those other 6 components that we kind of spent some time on. But again, at this point, I'm going to open it up and let Angela, let you take over and we can go from there. So.
Thanks, George. We really appreciate it. That was a lot of information. And so does anyone have any questions? Or, this is a great resource, this group of people that we have on this call. So you can also offer recommendations and suggestions and things you've experienced.
Hi, George. This is John Tabor. And thank you very much for sharing this information with us. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you work with companies, like what you could do with us, in our various companies.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a great question. So, the sort of short answer is, the first thing to do is for me to connect with you and your leadership team and see if there's a good fit there. But assuming that there is, we talk about this as a journey. And so the way that I work with leadership teams is that I'm working with them to implement these tools within the business. And so typically I'll meet with leadership teams 5 or 6 times a year. When we're first developing the relationship, actually in about the first 60 days, we're going to meet 3 times. And the goal there is that I need to sort of teach you these tools. And so ultimately what I'm trying to do is teach the leadership team to be able to take these tools and migrate them down throughout the whole organization, right? So we need to make this sticky. This can't just be the sort of flavor of the month club. We need to have accountability at the leadership team level and then take that discipline and accountability and push it down through the whole organization. So I think, John, to try to answer your question somewhat succinctly, My job is to actually train the trainers. I want to get your organization, your business, as independent from me as quickly as possible. And so that's my job, is to teach you the EOS tools. And when I'm doing that, I kind of have three roles. It's a mentor, a facilitator, and a teacher and a coach. So really, my three roles are that teacher, facilitator, and coach, right? So as a teacher, I have lots of tools to teach that are in the Traction book and in the EOS library. As a facilitator, I'm working with you and your leadership teams to have open, honest conversations, to really facilitate the conversations, to dig into your business and have difficult conversations that sometimes can't be had, just within our business. We're so busy, so working on the tactical side, that I'm providing that opportunity for us to take a deep breath and work on the strategic side of our business. And then as a coach is, frankly, I get the benefit of standing on the sideline and watching you and your team play this game. And I'm going to call you out. I'm going to hold you accountable. When you miss a block, you miss a tackle, we're going to talk about it. We're going to figure it out. And so those are the sort of three roles that I take when I'm working with my teams and my organizations. So does that help, John, a little bit?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have any thoughts or questions? There are a few of you on the call that participated in hiring for NARI recently, and we experimented with, I guess part of putting the right people in the right seats is hiring the right person. And we experimented with an approach for a group interview. I know, like Michael, Sari, and John, you were on that. I found that to be kind of interesting, and I would do that interview style again. I'd be curious to know if you guys felt it was a good tool. But we had a group interview, and we had certain questions for each candidate. And I don't think it was very easy for the candidates, but it was a great way to see them side by side, and to even see, like, part of the job was to be able to work under pressure and network, and it was interesting to see that. So I'd just share that little tidbit.
George, I wanted to ask a quick question. Michael Sori here. Thanks so much for doing this for us today. When you were talking about that accountability chart and a big step back. For many of us on the call from NARI who are part of remodeling organizations, what are the things that you see people often getting wrong in the org chart that have to be tweaked? I know it's individual, but what are the things that you've probably worked with many companies that people usually get wrong?
Yeah, I think the good news is that we're on this call, and it's almost, in the sense of being snarky, is being part of NARI, being part of something like RA or and other type peer group things, is you guys have made a decision to run a better business. And so when I'm working with these types of organizations and many EOS clients, it's not so much about what I would say we're getting wrong, right? I mean, the idea of, get work, do work, and get paid, pretty simple idea, right? It's not sort of mind-blowing. You're not going to get an MBA from Georgetown by that concept. So you guys all understand that concept. What happens when we take a big step back and we take a deep breath is that we get clarity on who actually is accountable for each one of those roles within our organization, right? And you can't have two people in one seat, because when two people are in one seat, nobody's in charge. No one's accountable, right? This is the classic mom and dad. Hey, can I go spend the night at somebody's house? Oh, no. Hey, Dad, can I go spend the night at so-and-so's? Sure, I don't know. It's Friday night. I got nothing better to do. And so without that accountability of one person in one seat, that might be one of the mistakes, Michael, that I would see coming into this is people might say, okay, well, we run our marketing team by committee, right? We have somebody in charge of social media, somebody in charge of digital, and we have somebody in charge of sort of classic print or whatever. And I say, well, okay, well then how is it working? Who's responsible for X number of leads? Well, we both are. Okay, well then at the end of the month, when you're supposed to generate 30 leads, you only generate 28. Who do I come talk to? And then you just get this finger pointing. And so that's taking that big step back and driving that accountability. It's more about getting the clarity. And I'll give you a specific example. A husband and wife team, they're actually in the print world. They're physically like large digital printing. And she had been sort of, quote, sitting in the marketing seat, but never had been given actual permission to make decisions, to be accountable in the marketing seat. And so literally in day one, when we took a big step back and we said, okay, you're accountable for marketing and you're accountable for generating new leads and opportunities for your business. You are solely accountable for that. Are you okay with that? And she said, yes. And literally at the end of the day, she just, I mean, the relief, the stress, she said, okay, I know what I need to do. I need to go spend money on, Facebook ads and some other things that I never felt I could do before. I've just been given permission to do my job. And so, that sort of clarity, that sort of accountability, if you will, is what that accountability chart drives towards. So.
Thanks, George. Anyone else have anything to ask or clarification on anything? George, would you be willing to share the slideshow presentation from today and we'll load the recording up on our YouTube channel?
Sure. Yeah, no, it's not a problem at all. Do you want me to, Angela, is it best if I send it to you just like as a PDF, or how would you like to?
That'd be great. A PDF is fine.
Sure. No, I can pop it over to you. Not a problem at all.
And if you would prefer, typically, as the presenter, we will share and let you reach out to each person who attended, and you could share that directly if you prefer. So I can eliminate the middle person.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, whatever's efficient, whatever's easy, not a problem at all. So.
Perfect. All right.
Great.
Well, great. Last chance. Any questions before we break for the evening? Thank you, everyone, for participating. George, we appreciate you sharing your expertise with us as a fellow NARI member. And it's great to see so many faces on here. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope business is good. And more importantly, I hope your families are doing well in this pandemic, okay? Everybody take care. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, George.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Good to see you, John.